Hello students, in this video I'm going to show how to factor the trinomial completely by using the grouping method. We have a three-term polynomial, which is a trinomial, and I'm going to look first for the greatest common factor, 7, 34, and 5. These particular coefficients have nothing in common. Then I'm going to look to see if all three of them have the same letter. The first two both have an x, but the last term does not. Therefore, there is not a greatest common factor for these three terms. My next step is to look at my leading coefficient. Because it is not 1, I can't just immediately separate these into two binomials. Instead, if I'm going to use the grouping method, I'm going to take the leading coefficient and I'm going to multiply it by the very last term, the constant, and I'm going to get a 35. This minus right here tells me that I'm looking for two factors that have different signs. The first operation tells me that the larger factor will be negative and the smaller will be positive. So now I'm looking for factors of 35 that subtract to get 34. I can make a list. And I can see that my negative 35 plus a positive 1 is going to give me a negative 34. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this trinomial and make it into a four-termed polynomial. I'm going to substitute these two values, negative 35 with the letter x and a positive 1x in place of this 34x. My 7x squared comes straight down. This becomes a negative 35x plus a positive 1x, and then my negative 5 comes straight down. I've simply substituted the middle term. Now that I have a four-termed polynomial, I can divide this in two groups. The first two terms become the first group, and the last two terms become the last group. I'm going to look for the greatest common factor of the first two terms, which is going to be 7x. I'm going to divide each of these terms by 7x, which gives me a x minus 5. My last two terms, they don't have anything in common. They're both prime. They have no common factor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a plus 1, because anything times 1 is itself. And I can rewrite this as plus 1 times x minus 5. Now that I've separated it into two terms being added, my first term has a monomial times a binomial. My second term has a monomial times a binomial. Notice that the binomials are identical. So these two terms have a common factor that is a binomial, which is x minus 5. If I factor out the x minus 5, I'm going to be left with 7x plus 1. And I have taken this three-term polynomial and I have factored it by the grouping method into two binomials being multiplied. If you have any questions, just let me know. Have a great day.